Hey guys, what's up? So I decided it's time to make a video explaining why I left YouTube for 8 months. 8 months is a long time. I've been known for taking breaks from YouTube, a couple months here, a couple months there, but this last break, I was gone for like 8 months and I was just gone. So I decided it's high time for me to explain this to you guys, but also kind of to get my thoughts out so I can even hear them back myself, to talk about it, right? So let's zoom back out, right? Let's zoom way back in time to like before Smooth McGroove existed, before the idea of my channel. So I remember watching YouTube. I was a huge fan of, music channels. I remember watching Ego Raptor's animations, Oni's animations, Lara playing piano, all these YouTubers, man, I loved it. It was just, I was a consumer back then. I played video games and watched YouTube videos, I did in my life. Never thought about making my own. And I remember seeing a channel, I can't remember what it was. It's not one that I watch now, but every video they would put out would get like 200,000 or 300,000 views. And I just remember thinking, that's an astronomical number. That's crazy. This person's making a living doing this. And oh wow, if I could only do that, if I could only put out videos that had that amount of views, I could make a living doing this, and I would do it forever, right? And I would make as many as possible because that's efficient, and that sounds like fun. So let's go into the future. It's 2018. I have a channel now that has almost 2 million subscribers. I am so fortunate and blessed to have this. I feel, it's amazing. But at the same time, it's like, why don't I just continue to do what I've always done now? It's like if I put out a video like I always do, like a Zelda, Mario cover, Street Fighter, whatever, Mega Man, Sonic. I mean, people really enjoy it. I enjoy it. They get a lot of views, and I'm fortunate enough to get, people donating and people buying the albums and even some ad revenue when I don't get claimed and make a living doing this. Why don't I keep doing this? Why do I take breaks? It doesn't make sense, right? And a lot of you, have sent me private messages asking the same thing. So this video is going to be a long one. I'm going to explain everything to myself and because of that to you as well. So let's zoom out, right? So to talk about YouTube, I kind of need to talk about my concepts on humanity, myself, right? I'm a student. I'm not a teacher. I'm a student, and I think everyone is a student, whether you think you are or not. We're always learning from this journey. So, Earth, right? The world. It's an operating system. It's Earth OS, right? What's the purpose of an operating system? This is the reason why I think it's this, is because an operating system it's system software that manages computer hardware and software resources and provides common services for computer programs, right? So that's the dry explanation. So Earth is the operating system. We are hardware. And what is hardware but like a vehicle for software to get installed? So humans. This is a dry explanation, but you'll see hopefully why I'm making this analogy and why it pertains to YouTube. So when we're little babies, right? We get born into the world, we got our DNA, we got our inherent programming that tells our heart to beat, that tells us to eat when we're hungry, to drink when we're thirsty, all that kind of stuff, right? Inborn stuff that doesn't need to get installed. But as we go through, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, we get in contact with our family. We get programs installed via what we see them do. We're literally like an empty hard drive absorbing the programs of our mother, our father, our guardian, grandma, grandpa, uncle, people that are around us, family, friends. We absorb this unconsciously because it just gets installed, right? You can look at that of all the cultures on all the world, right? America has different programs than like if you're growing up in rural India or in the middle of the Congo or, in Russia or in South America, different programs. And it's interesting to me because it's very apparent. And as we get older, those programs become more and more ingrained, right? We don't think about these programs that get installed, like political beliefs, religious beliefs, beliefs about the world in general, what's possible, what's not, what creativity is acceptable, what creativity is not acceptable. All this stuff, what's weird and what's normal, right? So let me take a little aside and say that I think the weirdest people are the people that make the biggest, most important changes on planet Earth. People like Isaac Newton, people like Steve Jobs, people like Albert Einstein. These were weird dudes, but they were world-changing, absolutely world-changing. because they embraced their differentness and they didn't allow fear of being different and about being, expanding on the ideas of humanity to get in the way of what they wanted to do. And because of that, boom, they splash, they change the world, they send ripples out. So let's get back to the whole Earth OS thing. So you have these people, right, that are really strange, weird, but their purpose is to like expand humanity, expand the ideas, right? You can even get into, instead of the scientific realm, you get into like the religious realm. Like if you look at the historical figures of like Buddha or Jesus Christ, or go back even further into like, any of these religions that have these big beings that just ripple out into the ideas, like, how do you pronounce it? Zoroaster, Krishna. If you read their writings, it's like, this changed the world. And especially where they touch down, they change the world. So what's the purpose of all this? The purpose of all this, it comes back to like, as I've gotten older, I've realized these programs about like what makes one culture different from the other, what makes one person different from the other, Like we're very different. Everyone is very different. I'm very different. And I realized I have a lot of weirdness in me. My weirdness birthed a cappella video game covers on a YouTube channel, but I embraced it. I decided that I wasn't going to fear that, how weird it was and how strange it was and how like I never saw anyone do it. I just decided to do it, and me embracing that weirdness, that differentness is the biggest thing that ever happened in my life. The most life-changing thing ever. I embraced it, I improved and got better at it and had fun with it, and guess what? Boom, here I am talking to you guys now. This is why you're listening to me. So look at YouTube as well. Like some of the most respected people, some of my biggest inspirations on YouTube even are the weirdest dudes. And I've met a lot of them, and they're awesome. And what makes them awesome is their weirdness, how weird they are, how weird their sense of humor is, how weird their ideas are, but how fearless they are at sharing their creativeness with the world via YouTube. And it works like this in all media, actors and music. Oh my gosh, I could gush about music. Maybe that's for another video. The weirdest musicians are the best ones. So, where was I? Earth OS, right? So we're all hardware running software, right? We're running programs. And I'm getting back to like me. Why do I take breaks? Why don't I just keep doing the same thing, right? And why don't I stay fearless? This is a big thing for me, right? Because as my YouTube channel got more and more successful, I started seeing myself as part of this community, this YouTube community, whereas before I wasn't part of it at all. I was just this dude who was going to school, who was teaching drum lessons, who decided that, I was sick of fearing my own creativity, not making music. So I decided to get into it, to be fearless. And this is like a draw my life, right? I could draw all this out, but I'm just going to talk to you guys. If you look at my first videos, they're just weird. They're just me being silly, making music. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just doing it. I decided I was going to spend what little free time I had making silly music and just running with it, right? And so what birthed the acapella stuff was never a preconceived idea. It was me getting creative blocks, making original music, literally. And I had this like 1 or 2 week break where I just couldn't write lyrics. I wasn't getting anywhere, and I decided to cover a song. And I've never discussed this, but I remember just kind of in that low state, that creative block, surfing around on YouTube or articles, and I remember coming across an article of E-Rock, the heavy metal, the metal guitarist, where he would like cover Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff, and he had this little interview, and I remember this so clearly now that I'm thinking about it, and he was talking about his creative process, and I was like, man, that's fearless, just kind of getting after it and doing it like he did, even though he was covering stuff, right? And I've always had kind of before Smooth McGroove, I was like, people covering songs is lame, you should make your own stuff, but I saw how fearless he was and how much fun he was having, and I was like, dude, I should do that just to break this creative block. I should like cover a Zelda song. I'm a huge video game fan, obviously. So I decided I'm going to cover like Zelda's Lullaby. It's such a beautiful song, beautiful. But how am I going to cover it? I could cover it, drums, keyboard, guitar, vocals, but that's all been done. That doesn't sound fun. And that's when the weirdness came in. I'm like, what if I like sang all the parts? I was like, that's weird. That's fun. So I did it. Boom, here I am, Smooth McGroove, acapella YouTube channel. I've done like 150 of these things. So I ran with it, and it was fun, but Starting in about 2014, after like a year of doing videos every single week and like burning myself out, I realized that I needed to take a break and step back and kind of look at this journey. And it took a long time for me to allow myself to do that, allow myself to step back, allow myself to look at my programming, because over that past year, it was like a year and a half actually, I was running the same program. Get up every day, get to arranging, get to recording, get to editing, whatever it was, get to posting that program. And it was literally like programming, just every single day. I allow myself a day off here and there, but it was a lot of work. These videos are a lot of work, especially to make them at the quality that I wanted to. So this comes back to like the whole programming thing. It's like, it was one of the first times in my life in a big way where I allowed myself to step back, take a break, not post videos, and just kind of live life and kind of see what was going on in me, like inside, because my world became so external. Everyone was watching me make videos. Everyone was watching my social media posts and making requests and this, and I was paying attention, but I wasn't looking inside. So long story short, I guess, this is a long video already, but I began to look inside again and see what was going on inside. And it was pretty chaotic because I hadn't put a lot of time at looking inward, which is where all this came from anyways. All that fearlessness, all that like love of music came from inside, and I wasn't in there anymore. I was constantly comparing my channel to other channels, my quality to the quality of my previous videos, trying to one up myself, looking at requests of people, trying to keep up on it. And that first break, it was kind of a dark period. I went inside and I realized there was a lot of darkness, which mean basically there wasn't a whole lot of light because I hadn't been paying attention. And this comes to like another concept about my whole Earth OS, which is like people, the Earth is an operating system. People are hardware. We're running programs, but most of us are running programs unconsciously. We're constantly externalizing, but all the programs are running from inside out. That's the way it works. And whether you know it or not, this is what's happening. And so this is where I realized the concept of meditation. And I think this is why meditation, which is an Eastern concept, is coming to the West more and more and more as this past century has come on. Because meditation, I've realized what it is, at least to my perception now, is it's where you turn off all the externalization and you look inward and you see. It's like opening up the computer case, seeing the motherboard, seeing all the hardware inside of you, running all of these circuits and what programs are running without you thinking every single day, every minute. And it's hard for a lot of people. It's hard for me. It's hard for a lot of humans nowadays because it's tough to turn off all the external stuff and look inside and be like, dude, this is running all the time. This anxiety, this fear, this jealousy, this any resentment you have, the lack of love, empathy, compassion, all this stuff, it's running all the time. And it's getting in the way, and it causes a lot of people to get on antidepressants, to drink, to do drugs, to freak out, to look at their life spiraling out of control, to go to therapy, to have their relationships explode, and like why the whole rock star syndrome, right? Whenever I was growing up in a musical household, musicians and everything, it's like what causes all these creative geniuses and these successful people to like get on drugs and alcohol, and a lot of them end up self-destructing. And I realized this is what this is. It's like when you become successful, externalizing all this creativity and what you are, and you stop going inside, it can like kind of it throws everything out of whack. It's like a computer that's never been defragmented, that all the programs are just everywhere. Your desktop's a mess. You got so many programs running at the same time. Your CPU's overloaded. You got no more RAM. Your hard drive's a mess. It's like meditation is like defragging. It's like old ScanDisk. You remember that? It's like getting in your hard drive and uninstalling programs that are not good. And so this brings me to my next concept, which is, okay, so you go inside, right? Meditation's hard for a lot of people. You close your eyes, you go in a dark room, and you just hear this loudness of your mind, right? You hear this loudness of all these programs that are running, and you don't have any control over them. It's tough. So for me, what this is, it's like you go inside and you feel the anxiety, right? You feel the fear. You feel any resentment you have toward yourself, toward others, to your patterns. Jealousy that you have toward others, which breeds this resentment, any hate that you have toward yourself, all these things, even if they're small little seeds, they're there, and they're running in the background, and you're, Control Alt Delete, it's like your task manager. And you see this stuff, and it's like time to confront them. And so that's the first thing, you confront them. And then it's like you run your virus scanner or your malware remover, and you start to become conscious, because it's like only you can remove these programs. Only you can become aware and remove these programs. You can have help from outside, but it really comes down to you. So, for me, it's like I started practicing this. I would like go inside and see all this stuff, and at first it's kind of depressing. And depression is one of these things you start to feel. But as you become more aware, it's like, and you practice more, you can remove all of these feelings. You can remove all of these things and confront them and kind of process them. It's not like you just remove them, but you process them, find out why they're there. And then you start to replace them with what you want, which is, instead of jealousy, you have like compassion for yourself and others. Instead of resentment, you have empathy. You have that which, it comes from yourself, and then it spreads to others, but it has to start from yourself. And instead of fear, the big one, which is the biggie, like you have the fear towards yourself, towards your patterns, toward what you want to do, but what the world expects of you, you replace that with love, which is like the big, powerful force, man. It's like the Beatles said, all you need is love. John Lennon. It's true, because once you love yourself, you look at all these other like viruses that are running, like jealousy, resentment, fear, hate, depression, anxiety. They're literally viruses, but they serve a purpose. Like just like almost any virus on a computer, it's like you see what the computer is without those viruses, which is a functioning program, which is a functioning operating system. And whenever you have love, it's like you can remove those things, or even like have compassion toward them and just slowly replace them. You replace those malware with like programs that you want to be running. You replace them, and you do it consciously. And for me, like, again, this is a long video, but if any of you are still watching, this is me talking to myself. I'm also talking to you, but I'm talking to myself here. I started realizing that like these big breaks from YouTube were like any big break that people take from life. It's like you start to realize what matters. Like me posting a video every week doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is if I'm coming from a place where I love what I'm doing. I love the process. I love myself while I'm doing it, and I love sharing it with people, right? And as I was running these programs of like recording a video every week, no matter what, I stopped. I got away from where I came from, which was the space of the love of creativity. The love of doing something that I've never done. The love of sharing that with people and hoping maybe they would love it too. And they would become inspired, and the world would become a better place because I'm doing something from a better place. From a place of love and, fun. So that's what this all comes down to. It's like everyone needs to do this. Everyone needs to like take their free time, whatever free time you have, and empower yourself by looking inward and being brave. And like seeing the programs that you're running that you actually maybe never installed yourself consciously from whenever you're 5 years old, 3 years old, 10 years old, from your parents, from your friends, from school, from TV, from video games, whatever they are, and confronting them, slowly replacing them, uninstalling them, replacing them with a program or maybe even just removing them and making room, making space to have fun with life, to enjoy it. And that's what these breaks have been. In this past 8-month break, 8 months of break is huge. It was like this big reflection time where I slowly removed bit by bit of what wasn't working in me. And it made all this room to where I realized what does work in me, which is like listening to music that inspires me, even watching a movie here and there that inspires me, realizing what I don't like, what doesn't inspire me, removing that. People that don't inspire me, removing them from my Facebook feed, removing them from my Twitter feed, removing them from whatever, unsubscribing from them from YouTube. All these things in my life, and like replacing them with things that I love. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a geologist. So like, buying and, crystals. I love crystals. I wanted to dig up crystals and dinosaur bones when I was a kid. I loved that idea. Archaeology, geology, like wonder about the world. I love this stuff. And I kind of would slowly forget about this stuff as I, got more successful in YouTube and just made that the number one priority. Exploring, learning, being a student of the world. Installing new hardware or new software I've never installed and having fun with it, allowing it to change me. learning new things, reading about ancient civilizations, looking at, imagining traveling to these places on Earth. It's so fun for me to do this. Those of you who have watched me stream on Twitch have already heard a lot of these rants. Maybe not to this extent, but this is why I'm doing this, because I'm sharing this with all you people that care to hear this, that care about me enough to listen, to me ramble on about this. But I think this matters because this matters for everyone. This is like a big thing. I see it in all my friends. I see it in my family. I see it on social media. I see it in all the YouTubers I've met when I went to LA, when I've gone to the East Coast. Like all these people, some of the most successful YouTubers in the world that I've met, like, a lot of them are going to therapy. A lot of them are struggling with anxiety and depression. And it's because of, I realized the same stuff that's affected me through this journey, this YouTube journey. New media, YouTube, Twitter, all this stuff is like Instagram. It's all a big new thing, right? And we're all going through this journey together. This video is me describing my journey, the ups and downs that I've had, the big downs that I've had, but what's worked. And what's worked for me is going back inside, realizing what's fun, getting back to that space, that spark of fun, that spark of love, that spark of creativity that birthed this whole Smooth McGroove thing in the first place, right? All this external stuff you see, it doesn't even matter unless I'm doing it from a place that matters, right? The worst thing I've realized that I can do is go on autopilot and continue to make videos from a space of automatic programming while I'm anxious, depressed, unhappy, sad, inside, low energy, because whether I know it or not, I've realized this by talking to a lot of my fans and my supporters. This stuff comes through. When I go back and watch videos that I've made when I wasn't coming from a space of 100% love and creativity and fun, it's visible in my face. It's visible in my voice. I can see it. It's a subtle energy. But I think subtle energies are one of the most powerful things in the world. And once you start to feel them and see them, you realize how they affect you and everyone else around you, which is that it all comes from a space of in that internal space, which is what I talked about, like the concept of meditation earlier, why it's so important, so powerful, and it's like how you get to know yourself. So moving on. Conscious program installation. Be conscious about what you're programming. And I could get into this about kids. Looking back at my life as a kid, like all the stuff that I absorbed as a kid that shaped me, all the programs that my parents installed. A lot of them were amazing. I love my parents. But a lot of the really bad programs that got installed, all these fears that got installed because I saw how different I was from all the other kids. I saw how different I was than all the way the teachers thought and the way the society thought. So I became an observer. I was the quiet kid in the corner of the classroom observing and seeing how different I was. I loved video games. I loved playing video games. I loved making friends that played video games. I loved discussing and playing video games with them after school. I loved music. I loved playing in bands. I loved singing in my car when I was 16. I loved the bands that I liked. I liked the music of video games. It became a part of me. Like these were programs I knew that worked, that became a conscious thing that I embraced. And I realized that life is about embracing these things you love, consciously installing these programs and running them all the time. And, just using your free time, using your free will, using your power to be that, to be what you want, to grow into that, become more of that, spread that. That's what life's about. Using your free time to do that. What else? I told myself I was going to write down a lot of this stuff, but I'm just talking, and I hope this is working. So, what's next? I think I've gone through pretty much everything. It's all about even that my previous video that I made about creativity 2 years ago. This ties into all of that. What you think about and what you believe becomes your reality. And it ties into everything I'm talking about, So it's like the viruses of life, like jealousy, resentment, fear. Be your own virus scanner. Scan yourself. Look at that stuff. See if you're making YouTube videos, but you're doing it out of fear. Don't do that. Do whatever you have to do. Make videos, make music, make social media posts. Go out into the world from a space of fearlessness. Don't be fearful. Be full of love for yourself. Love others. Share that. Be strong. Be powerful. Radiate that, because that's going to affect others. When you talk to someone and you're coming from a space of fearlessness, you're going to spread that fearlessness. You're going to spread that love for yourself, for them. You're going to spread that compassion, that empathy. This is one of the reasons why I never get into politics on social media, because it doesn't matter which side you're coming from on politics. There is so much hate on both sides, so much jealousy, resentment, fear. it's this low vibe state, man. Like, doesn't matter which side you're on. Like, be inspired by high vibration stuff. Like, people that are out there spreading love for the sake of love, not for the sake of one side winning over the other. People that are spreading this compassion, that are coming from a place that transcends politics, that empathy, that transcends all this bullcrap programming that gets installed via mass media, social media, that just gets repeated and recycled through people because they run these programs that they watch and they adhere to, and they just zombie out. Come from a space of that pure high inspiration, which is the space that I'm trying to come at you from today. I hope it worked, because I needed to talk about this. I know that some of you will gain some perspective from this, at least on why I've taken breaks. My hope is that I don't need to take breaks anymore, because I make videos and talk to you guys even like this from a space of this good place. And if I do have to take breaks in the future, realize that it's because I'm kind of going back inside, trying to come from a place of this love, which is what I think the world needs more than anything. And so that any song I make, any art I make, any video I post is coming from this place, so I can help the world. Because I realize, when I'm 99 years old and on my deathbed, I'm not going to care how many videos I put, how many views I get. What I'm going to care about is if I came from a place of goodness, from a place of, like loving myself, loving what I'm doing, and loving everyone as much as I can. So that's where I'm coming from. That's what I'm trying to send out to you guys. And through explaining this, I hope you guys enjoyed this, gained some perspective. And Earth OS, we're in it. Install the programs that you want to be running. Embrace your weirdness if it's what you need to be doing. Be the weird person making awesome changes in the world. If it's coming from a high place, embrace your weirdness. Be weird. Don't let fear beat you down into conformity and become a zombie running these programs that don't help the world. Be yourself, be love, be compassion, be empathy, be powerful, and I'll talk to you guys later.
I'd be crazy not to follow